Hey everyone, this is Hayden again here with Informal Inquiry, and today what I'm going to talk about is a tool that I use to deal with some anxieties, some worries, and some concerns that I have sometimes. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. So let me just give you a quick overview of the process. The end goal is to achieve productive action through exposing the underlying desires and needs of your worries and concerns. And the way we're going to do this is by writing our problems down, asking questions about them, and then answering those questions, and then recycling through that process several times before we come up with like a distilled version of the solution to our problem. So let's go ahead and start with writing down your concerns. So the reason we're writing these down is because thoughts are so abstract, and it pins them down and it makes them more real and workable. You want to write them down in a way that is recognizable for you. So as long as you know what it symbolizes, it could be even just a symbol. That's really all that matters. Alright, so next step is the inquiry part. So I call it Investigative Inquiry. So I wrote down, in this step you are going to ask questions that will shed light on your concerns at hand. So make sure you're asking open-ended questions, stuff that's going to provide more detail, more insight versus yes or no questions. So the third step is answering the questions. So this is all about being honest with yourself. So if you set yourself up with a good question, the answer should be pretty good as well. It should be interesting. And honestly, if your question's good, it'll probably trigger you in some way. It'll make you feel emotional. You may feel inspired because you're like, oh wow, this is what I want to do. Or you might feel uninspired because you're not at where you want to be. Both of those are good. If you have an emotional response, that means you're on the right track and you're on your way to progress in those areas. So that's good. So the main goal of this step is to have a better idea of where you are and where you want to be. So I call the fourth step the call to action. It's just repeating the same steps over again. So if you got triggered on your last answer, that's a good thing, like I said. So you're gonna ask a question, why was I triggered? So for example, I was triggered in a way because I was like, oh wow, this is like really obvious what I need to do. What is preventing me from actually doing it? So that was a really powerful question that I asked myself. It allowed me to face my doubts and face my fears directly rather than circumventing them. It actually took me 2 more cycles to go through before I was able to finally get a conclusion. My next 2 questions were, what needs to be done to begin taking action? And then, what if it feels like too much? Those 2 essentially led me to create a schedule for myself and break down my goals into pieces. So I wasn't just doing it all at once. It made it a little bit less overwhelming for me. So that was very useful and helpful for me. I just want to go through again really quick the steps. So the first step is you're going to identify your concerns. You're going to write them down, then you're going to ask your questions about your concerns, then you're going to answer those questions to those concerns, and then you're going to redo that cycle of concern, question, answer until you identify what you're looking for. At the end, you should feel better than you did before. If the opposite is true, then this process might not be the right thing for you. I think that rhymed. Yeah, that is pretty much all I have for you. If this was confusing at all, let me know. If you guys found this video helpful, let me know by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with somebody. So I definitely appreciate your support. And as always, I will see you in my next videos.